Daytona, heat number 2 is at the gate here at the 125 Supercross by Honda. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates, and those are modern-day gladiators, Brock. Ezra Law's got a Bainbridge, Georgia. He's on a Kawasaki. Look at all the safety apparel these guys are wearing now. It's incredible.
And what a sea of colors. I'll tell you what, I don't think there is a color in a rainbow that's not represented on every motorcycle. That is Mike Brown, and right next to him is Scott Sheik out of Germantown, New York. You know, these kids come from all over the United States to ride down here, Steve. It's really great to see every part of the country represented.
And it used to be that budding new talent came primarily out of the Sun Belt states, particularly California and Texas. Not so anymore. These kids, along with their folks or their grandfolks or even on their own, travel to wherever they have to, whatever time of the year it is, to ride with the best. And that's what we've got here today at Daytona. The best 125 racers in America, if not the world.
Okay, ready to go with heat number 2. Remember now, the top 9 will move to the main event. Gate about ready to go as this field funnels down into the first set of whoops on this very difficult 3/4 of a mile Daytona Supercross course.
And what a start, number 43, Ezra Law's got. He is quickly in the lead by several bike lengths. What a shot he took on that Suzuki. Of course, he had the favorite slot on the gate as well. Let's remember that.
But he's doing a great job as Luss leads him down through that set of whoops. There's a good battle developing here for third. That is 27 John Dowd and Brian Deegan on the 279. They are really going at it here as Luss continues to open out on the rest of the field. What a great shot as these riders just leap and bounce over those big jumps on the back part of the course. Interesting that these suspensions are so good, Steve, that they can land on the front wheel, the back wheel. They can land on both wheels, and the motorcycles will just behave so beautifully. It's almost an unbelievable feat that these things work that well.
Well, I tell you, John Dowd on that 27 bike, he has been flying. You saw him go around a bit earlier, 279 Brian Deegan, and he's not stopping there. Let's remember, the further you finish in that top 9 going to the main, the better start you get on that gate. It is important to pick these guys off and get as close to the front as you can.
No question. As you saw Ezra Lusk, who started what you'd call the pole position, I suppose, in any other kind of racing, he used that to great advantage as here he comes, and he is giving it a great ride so far. But remember, in the first heat, we saw a young man named Tim Ferry get out in front and just make one slight mistake and fall out of the lead. In fact, fall back to 5th place.
Yeah, but we're not going to give it to him yet. Neither is number 54, Mike Brown. That red bike just through your screen. There's 27, John Dowd. He is flying in the 3rd spot. 49 out of Texas, that's Jeff DeMett. But a race we really ought to follow here is around that 5th position, which is 75, Joel Dangler, Scott Sheik, 55, and 279, Brian Deegan, the 3 of them.
Well, Deegan and Sheik have both gotten by Jeff DeMett, and they are in a battle. There is Scott Sheik moving up on Deegan. And here is your 2nd place rider, the red Honda of Brown, being challenged by John Dowd and that 27 motorcycle, and suddenly the race for 2nd gets interesting.
It does indeed, and for Mike Brown, there's an incentive. Let's remember, this is the 125 Supercross by Honda. Honda won the first heat, and Brown would like to make it a sweep for him if he can on that 54 bike.
But right now, Ezra Lusk is out of our picture, and he's got a big, big lead. And here comes the 279. This is a great race as Brian Deegan holds on to that spot. The 75 motorcycle, that is Joel Dangler. And, of course, we got Scott Sheik in the 55. That is a real struggle here between these 3 riders.
Just amazing how much. Oh, and we have got a rider down hard. That was 55, Scott Sheik, and really down hard is the 990 bike. That is Matt Shue. Matt is not moving. He's almost in the middle of the course. And experience tells me, Brock, there's our leader, Ezra Lusk. He has no idea this happened behind him. I think you're going to see a red flag here. They cannot try to continue this race around the down riders. They're going to have to attend to this young man and do it very quickly, and they are already on the scene.
So the racing has stopped as they tend to Matt. The emergency crew's on the scene. So as we get ready for a restart after they tend to this injured rider, we'll take this break. We'll be back at Daytona right after this.
Here in Daytona, they are ready for the restart of heat number 2 in the 125cc Supercross by Honda. We'll all be watching Ezra Lusk, who was in the lead when the race was red flagged. But another guy to keep an eye on is John Dowd, the rider of the number 27 bike. If he gets a better start, he'll be a lot of competition for Ezra Lusk. He might even be the man. Now, the rider Matt Shue that went down so hard that caused the red flag, he has been taken to the hospital. We will keep you apprised of his condition as we learn more. All right, the gate is down, and heat number 2 is restarted. And I was right. John Dowd is right in the thick of this thing, Brock.
John Dowd doing a super job. It's going to be he and Ezra Lusk. There's Lusk right in the 43 on the right side of your screen. He is going to try to retake that lead that he held so convincingly before the red flag came out.
But our leader right now is 279, Brian Deegan on that green Kawasaki. But here comes Ezra Lusk on the yellow number 43. Ezra not wasting any time at all trying to reassert himself. What a performer, what an athlete. And let's remember, not only do they have to hang on to this motorcycle, they have to shift up to 5 times.
So you're working your foot, your hands, you're holding your fingers just gripped on that throttle. It's the bike's trying to grab the throttle out of your hand. I don't know how anybody manages to change gears as many times as these kids do. Still, they're changing gears while they're flying through the air, Steve.
All right, and speaking of flying, on the outside comes Ezra Lusk, trying to get to the leader, 279, Brian Deegan. Well, I tell you, these kids are just amazing. You consider not only do they have to hold on to the motorcycle and negotiate around this tough course, they are shifting constantly. These are 6-speed transmissions.
Hard enough to just hold on to this bike and work the throttle, much less use your foot and your hand to clutch and change gears with these things. So it takes almost complete body coordination to run a motorcycle like this over this kind of terrain. As we watch Ezra Lusk slowly work his way up on Brian Deegan on that 279 Kawasaki. But Brian Deegan is holding him off surprisingly well. But suddenly, Lusk got right up beside him, but Deegan held him off.
Deegan had the better line, but here in the straight part is Ezra Lusk. And what a path! Ezra Lusk moves down on the inside, forces Deegan high. That was just beautifully done. And there you can see Ezra trying to keep his feet on the pegs. He's got to be getting just a little bit tired here.
Ezra just made a great pass there to take the lead, and now just breaks out. He's moved way out front on Brian Deegan. Almost made kind of a shocking charge he made on Brian. Maybe just kind of stunned him a little bit there.
All right, here's a great race for fifth among 250 Chris Neal, 75, that is Joel Dengler. And Gregory Kreinbrook, that is bike number 611. Boy, I tell you, really trying to hang on is Chris Neal. You can see using all of the upper body he's got.
There was a kind of a double jump there between Kreinbrook and Dengler as they struggle for that 6th position. Okay, Dengler is now moving gotten by Gregory Kreinbrook. Dengler out of Chatsworth, New Jersey, one of the Eastern riders here. A pretty prominent bunch of Easterners come down to Daytona Beach every year, Steve, and do very, very well.
Well, Gregory Kreinbrook has now gotten past Joel Dengler. Dengler had made his way around him, and now it's payback time from young Gregory. Great competition on a wonderful racetrack. And some pretty good camera work here, too, I might add, Brock.
I'll tell you what, some pretty great riding on the part of all these youngsters. When you consider we've only had a couple of really serious spills, and all this racing going on literally cheek by jowl. I mean, nobody gets more than a few feet away from another rider, especially in these tight corners, is a testimony to what skill and really physical conditioning these guys bring to this kind of competition.
Well, I'll tell you, Dengler here is really putting the moves on Gregory Kreinbrook on that 611 bike that so far hasn't had quite enough. Not that he's not trying, that's for sure. Look at this.
Finally got by. So Dengler, but Kreinbrook comes right back at him. So that's an incredible race there as we move to the battle for 3rd. That is Brian Deegan in that 279. Right behind him, Jean-Sebastian Roy. He's out of Quebec. Young rider comes down from the province of Quebec to compete here. And right now, though, that is 279. Brian Deegan making a great jump there. And there is 581. Jean-Sebastian Roy falling back just a little bit, but that's a good race, and that is for 3rd place here.
And the knobby tires constantly spinning on this dirt constantly change the complexion of the racetrack. It's never the same for 1 lap or 2 laps. It's constantly moving this dirt around like one big bulldozer. In fact, between heats, they'll come out with heavy earth-moving equipment and try to put the course back together, put some of that dirt back where it started.
You'd consider the strength. We talked about the strength and skill of the riders, but the motorcycles are relatively lightweight. They look like they're quite fragile, but They fly and bounce and take this incredible hammering as we watch our leader Ezra Lusk just break away from the field. Look at the abuse that motorcycle takes, but not only as far as the engine is concerned, but the suspension. And they stay together, and they'll be ready to race in the feature. And I'm sure unless Ezra takes a mighty spell here, he's headed for the main event.
All right, here's the battle for 7th. That is 54, Mike Brown, 49, Jeff DeMett, and 75, Joel Dengler. And the pressure is really on Joel Dengler. He is 9th and must stay there to transfer right to the main event. Nobody wants to ride that last chance qualifier. It just heaps more abuse on body and machine.
And the chances also are lessened because you're going to start way at the other end of the starting gate, which gives you an even less advantage. So you want to finish as high as you possibly can in these heat races.
Well, Joel Dengler, the 75 bike, he is trying to buy himself a bit of insurance. If he can get around 49 Jeff DeMint, he will be in the 8th place and have a bit of a cushion there. And that will put the pressure on 241 Todd Bennick, and it happens.
All right, as they come at us, that is Mike Brown on the 54. Right behind him, 75, that's Joel Dengler, of course. And right behind him is Jeff DeMint. And DeMint trying hard. You remember, he was up among the leaders for a while, but seems to have fallen back after that restart.
And speaking of leaders, man, look at this guy fly. You would think he was dead last and trying to make a comeback here. Ezra Lusk has taken the white flag. He is on the last lap with the field well behind him.
And suddenly we've got a new player in this game. That is Jason Edwards on that 121 Honda out of Texas. And he is challenging Jeff DeMint for that 9th transfer spot. And if, in fact, Jason can get by him, he is in the main event. And, yes, he did. He is by him. So unless he makes a massive comeback, Jeff DeMint is headed for the last chance heat. And his probability of getting into the feature are much lessened.
Absolutely. In fact, Jeff DeMint, 49th, has now been pushed clear back to 11th. And he's got less than 1 lap to try to do something about that situation.
Okay, there is 75. That's Joel Dengler suddenly being challenged now by Jason Edwards, who's really on a tear in the final stages of this race. Dengler trying to hold him off, but there is Edwards just riding like a fool here. He's just doing a super job trying to gather in Dengler for the 8th finishing position. But wait a minute, here goes Dengler. He breaks away, and suddenly Todd Bennick on the 241, he starts to challenge Jason Edwards. So we got a 3-way struggle here. But Edwards breaks loose from Bennick there for a moment as Joel Dengler also is opening up a little bit of a lead. So these 3 bikes here are going to be uncertain. Here comes your winner. That is Ezra Lusk, easily winning here in the 2nd heat.
But there's still action out there. Number 121, Jason Edwards, has now passed 75 Joel Dengler for that 8th position. He's got a little bit of cushion, but not Joel Dengler. He has got to really pour on the steam to make sure he doesn't get past and knocked out of 9th. If he does, it's going to be a very, very long day for him and a very hard day physically, but he did not. Joel Dengler, 75, picks up that 9th position. Jason Edwards in the 8th spot on 121. Great racing, and there's more coming your way from Daytona.
At Daytona, where we've just completed the 2nd heat of the 125 Supercross by Honda. Ezra Lusk, a convincing win. John Dowd, Brian Deegan, John Sebastian Roy, and Scott Sheik round out the top 5. And Steve is with the winner.
Well, I tell you, that Suzuki had everything you needed to get the lead, even though your start wasn't quite what you wanted.
Yeah, blasted out of the gate really good, and I just had a rough time trying to keep that front wheel down going down the straightaway. And I come out in 2nd place in that 2nd corner, and I was looking pretty good.
You're hardly even breaking a sweat here, unlike some of the other guys.
Well, I was training for this race prior, a couple months ahead of time, so I'd be ready for it. I didn't just go out and train last week to get ready for it. And hopefully I'll be up front in the main event with Suzuki.
We'll be watching.
Thanks a lot.
Brock?
Okay, the other riders who are guaranteed positions in the main event: Mike Brown, Chris Neal, Jason Edwards, and Joel Dengler. But Todd Bennick, he missed the cut. He's going to have to ride in the last chance if he wants to run in the feature. And now let's go to Steve with the 2nd place finisher.
Well, John, mission accomplished. One tough racetrack and a lot of heat for a change. We haven't seen that in a few years here.
Yeah, I'm